My name is John Newhart, and I love food.
I've spent over 25 years studying food and working as a professional chef. During that time, I've traveled across the country and around the world. One thing I've discovered is that a lot of my favorite food comes from right here, where I call home. Come with me now as I visit some of the farms and meet some of the people who help grow and produce this great food. We'll see why what they do is so special and unique. Then I'll take some of their fantastic products back to my kitchen and show you some recipes that you can make in your own home. I'm so excited to share with you what it is that makes me a Vermont foodie. Hi, and welcome to Vermont Foodie. Today we are all the way down in Bristol, and we've come so far away from our home base up in Franklin County to visit with some very near and dear old friends of mine, Erle and Eliza. Erle and Eliza are people that I've known for a long time, and they just started making their chocolates when I moved away, but they've grown their business and they've turned it into really quite a beautiful thing. So thank you for coming to Vermont Foodie. And I'd love to hear a little bit about Farmhouse chocolates with you guys.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for having us.
Cool. Why don't you tell me about the origins of Farmhouse chocolates?
So I started making the chocolate truffles 23 years ago in my grandfather's farmhouse in Randolph. And I just made them around Christmas time and Valentine's Day. So I started when I was in high school. And then I would always make them in addition to a full-time job. And then
went to Necky Culinary School in between.
Sure did, in Montpelier. And then Eliza and I met in 2010.
Yeah, so by the time we met, he had been doing it on his own seasonally in addition to full-time work in the culinary industry for probably about 17 years at that point. And together we built it up, just having another set of hands, even though I didn't go to school for business or food. Two heads, two sets of hands. We started to build it into something that we thought maybe could be our full-time job, and took the leap in 2015.
What are some of the things that you make here?
We make 6 different flavors of chocolate truffles. We make chocolate-covered salted caramels, and we make 6 different types of chocolate bars.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot. People will ask very specific questions. Like recently, I got do you have that with almond crunch? And it's over the years, it's gotten easier for me to say like no and not feel like I just failed someone terribly, because you literally can't make everything, right? But it will also be nice to be able to offer, now that we've eliminated one product line, limited edition flavors, more seasonal things that can come and go, and not that we have to have 10,000 labels ordered ahead of time because we're wholesaling them.
Right.
So we're flexing in that direction a little, but we're a small company, and with COVID, we don't have any employees right now. So still, we had grown, and now we shrunk a little pre-COVID on purpose, so we could grow more efficiently. So for me, I just always have to be real patient with what we can do, but we make a bunch of all of our items we craft with organic, fair trade, soy-free dark chocolate, 2 different percentages. So we have a great thing going, and then bit by bit, I hope to offer more variety without going crazy again.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Well, a lot of our viewers, and myself included, aren't super familiar with the process of making chocolate. So I was wondering if you could just give us a quick overview of the method you would take from start to finish of what you do here.
Sure, I'm gonna hand this over to you, but first I just do want to distinguish between working with chocolate and making chocolate for the viewers. And as a professional, I don't like to give anybody the wrong idea of what we do. So chocolatiers have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and all of the fancy chocolate shops in, say, France or Belgium, those are the masters who work with the chocolate are chocolatiers. So it's a venerable tradition, and I guess simply put, it's you take processed chocolate, and then you melt it, retemper it, mold it, shape it, you work with it.
Right.
And so that's what we do. And then chocolate making is you start from the bean. And so you start like even further back in the processing to shape the final product. And we are just embarking on that. So what Erle will describe being a chocolatier rather than chocolate making.
So on any given day, I'm either making caramels or ganache or both. And then as the morning goes on, as the day goes on, I'll temper some chocolate and dip those caramels that I cut up earlier, as well as the ganache that I scooped by hand and rolled by hand. And I will dip those as well, and then decorate the tops so I can differentiate between the flavors. And then usually at the end of the tempering process, I will make some chocolate bars.
And those are molds. So molded chocolates versus like handcrafted confections.
Nice. Well, if somebody watching the show wanted to get a hold of some of your chocolates, what would be the best way for them to go about doing so?
Yeah, probably start at our website, because you can order online. You can order on our Etsy shop. You can read a little bit about us, and we also have a list of stores throughout Vermont where you can find our chocolates. So hopefully you find someone near you and you can go support your local shops. I would start by going to farmhousechocolates.com.
Cool. That's great. Well, this is a cooking show, and I know that you guys predominantly make a finished product.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, is there something you can send me back home to my kitchen with that I could use as an ingredient?
Definitely.
Yeah, we have two things for you today. One is going to be cocoa nibs or cacao nibs, which is just really, really unprocessed chocolate. The cocoa beans, once they're dried and fermented, usually on site where they're grown and harvested, and then once they get to our country, you still have to roast them, unless you're making raw chocolate. And then you're cracking and winnowing them, which is getting rid of the
Husk.
the husk. Yeah, it's kind of like separating the grain from the chaff. And then what you're left with are cocoa nibs.
Nice.
So they're really healthy, like high in antioxidants, and all the good properties of chocolate are really concentrated in them. Got like a fruity, nutty, crunchy thing going on. So I think you'll probably come up with some fun uses for them.
Cool.
And then we'll also give you some salted burnt butter caramel sauce.
Ooh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Well, shall we go look at the shop and see what goes on in there?
Yeah, let's do
Awesome,
it.
thanks. Well, we've just come back from Erle and Eliza's, and they sent me home with some really fantastic treats. Some ground and winnowed cocoa nibs, or cacao nibs, either pronunciation is correct according to my dear friend Erle, and some burnt butter caramel sauce. Now, I am someone who enjoys savory flavors much more than sweets. I like a dessert once in a while, but my favorite food is dinner before the dessert. So I really wanted to think of what could I do that would incorporate chocolate making and candy making ingredients into a classy dinner dish that'd be easy enough for me to prepare quickly for you and for you to prepare at home on your own. And what I came up with was a cocoa crusted lamb chop. I think the cocoa is going to accent the flavors of the lamb beautifully. I'll show you how to make a crust and put the crust on the meat. And then we're going to sear it in a skillet and finish it off in the oven. And while that's in the oven, we'll make a beautiful Vietnamese-inspired green salad with some of the greens given to us by our friends at Fin and Roots. And after the salad is done, we'll check on our lamb, and then we're going to take that caramel and transform it from a sweet dessert sauce into a savory Asian caramel sauce that will be fantastic with our lamb for dinner tonight. So let's begin. First thing we're going to do is make our crust. We're going to take our cocoa nibs, which we have right here. These are what Erle sent home with me. They smell quite a bit like brownies fresh out of the oven. They're not sweetened like chocolate that you get at the store. These are just cocoa beans that have been coarsely ground and put through their winnowing machine, which removes the husks from the outside and leaves only the delicious interior of the bean. It's a little bit coarse right now, and I don't want to have that much crunch on the outside of my lamb. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these hard cocoa beans and put them in my coffee grinder and grind them. Now, I think grinding these in my regular coffee grinder will be absolutely fine. People drink coffee with chocolate all the time. However, if you were to grind another spice, I would definitely recommend using a separate apparatus. That way you don't have the flavors of other savory spices mixed in the next time you grind yourself a fresh coffee. So we're just going to let this go and see how it comes out. All right, there we go. So you can see we've got fairly smooth. Possibly that is what cocoa powder is. Not nearly as fine as cocoa powder you would buy at the store for baking. It almost has the texture of a little bit like instant coffee. Now, once again, this is a savory application, and one key factor to turning something from sweet into savory is adding our standard American seasoning, salt and pepper. So I'm going to add some salt to our cocoa nibs. And a nice, healthy amount of freshly cracked black pepper. There we are. Just going to mix everything with my fingers and get it all together and happy. And as we've been talking, I've been having my skillet warming on the burner. It's starting to show wisps of smoke around the sides. I'm just going to add a little bit of cooking oil. You can almost instantly see the cooking oil shimmers and grows loose, which means our pan is plenty hot enough. So let's take our beautiful lamb chops. These are from Enosburg. And I'm going to coat both sides. We'll listen for that nice sear, which means we've warmed our pan up properly. I'm kind of paying attention as I do this, that the previous lamb chops are starting to suck up the crust. I want to make sure that I get as much of the surface area covered as I possibly can. It looks like we're just barely going to fit these all in the pan. Oh boy, I can smell the cocoa in there already. It really has a very pronounced chocolatey smell. Now, an important step of searing that, as I teach you the technique of searing and crusting meat, is to let the meat stay still. You don't want to agitate the pan. Agitating the pan will cause this crust that we've worked on to fall off. It's important to let these sit and have enough time to develop a good flavor. Okay, we're ready to flip these over. As I do, you'll see that the cocoa crust is beautifully infused and seared onto the chop. And now we're going to give them a chance for that cocoa to sear on the bottom. Now these chops are relatively thick, so we are going to need to finish them off in a hot oven. We're not going to be able to cook them all the way through on this pan. So let's let that sear happen a little bit, and then we'll go to the oven. We are ready to go to the oven. So all I'm going to do, I've got the oven preheated to 375 degrees. I'm thinking these are pretty thick. I want to give them 15 to 20 minutes at the very least. We'll give them a little touch test when we're done. Shooting for medium rare to medium probably with lamb would be great. Rare is also wonderful. If you like well done, you're going to want to go more half hour, 45 minutes for sure. That is your taste. Remember, cook how you like to eat. All right, so once our lamb is done, we're going to be serving it today with a Vietnamese-inspired salad. The flavors are simple and clean. There's a lot of freshness in Vietnamese cuisine, and that's what we're going to go for and incorporate in our salad today. We've got this great assortment of greens, and I'm just going to rip and tear all of our greens right into the bowl. So I've got my bowl almost too full here. I'm just going to very delicately get in here with my impeccably clean hands and start to kind of mix our variety of lettuces together. And we'll let that hang out as such for now. One of the great combinations that is classic Vietnamese cuisine is that of fresh basil and fresh mint. So I've got some fresh mint leaves here. And I'm just very coarsely going to chop them. I am not concerned with having them finely minced or shredded. I want my diners to get a big piece of mint to chew on and really know that they have mint mixed into their salad greens. And with the basil, same story. I'm just going to clip this basil fresh, and I'm really not concerning myself very much at all with trying to chop it finely. I want them to bite into big, big flavor of big, big basil leaves. And lastly, I have these lightly toasted peanuts, also lightly salted. We are going to add our own salt and pepper. The less salt you have put on your food ahead of time, the more you can add yourself to accommodate your own tastes. So I did specifically buy lightly salted, knowing full well that I want to mix my coarse kosher salt on top for the crunch and the saltiness in the dish. And that is the balance of our salad. I'm going to mix all these ingredients together, just as we mix the lettuce. However, I'm not going to dress this just yet. The moment those liquids hit these super delicate, very fresh lettuce leaves, they're going to start wilting that salad down. I don't want to wilt this salad down until I'm ready to eat it. I'm not going to be ready to eat it until my lamb chops are ready and our sauce is complete. So all I'm going to do at this stage of the game is just lightly get my hands in here. Oh, the mint smells fantastic. Now, when you're doing this at home, as I am noticing now, you may see that the heavy items, which would be the peanuts in this case, have a tendency to start sinking towards the bottom, and that's something to pay attention to later when we go to the plate. So we'll put our mostly finished salad to the side and move on towards our caramel sauce. I'm just going to pour my caramel right into the pan. I want to be careful that this doesn't come to a boil too rapidly. This is already on the verge of having been burnt, hence the dark, delicious caramel that we've got. So right off the bat, I can see it starting to bubble. So I'm going to add a swirl of balsamic. And a swirl of tamari. And I'm going to get right in and mix all this and incorporate it together. And this really isn't going to need to cook much. It's going to get hot, it's going to bubble very briefly, and then we're going to want to take it off the flame and let it cool. The key is to be very careful, to go slow and calmly, and don't panic for fear it will burn. So we can see how it's bubbling up. That is the water content of the vinegar and the tamari sauce boiling out and leaving behind only the essence of its flavor, mixing in with our delicious caramel. Just leave that there for a moment and have a quick taste. Be careful because this is super, super hot. Exactly what I'm looking for. Mission success. I'll confess this was a bit of an experiment, and I'm really happy. It's close enough to on the edge of burning that I am going to add just a shot more balsamic and a very scant shot of tamari. And what's going to happen as I mix this in is it's going to cool that hot liquid down, just in case there's any chance of carryover heat, setting it to get a little bit more dark than I want. Beautiful, and there's your sauce. And you can absolutely do this with any caramel. Well, it won't be quite the same as if you use Eliza's. Next up, let's check our lamb. Beautiful, look at that. Now, when you roast meat in the oven, it's important to let it rest when it comes out. Resting allows the muscle fibers in the meat, which have tightened, to relax. And that allows the juice to flow back into itself. If we get these out too quickly and start carving, we will have lamb juice all over. It will be on our cutting board. It will not be still in the lamb. So in order to ensure that we still have a nice, juicy piece of meat, we're just going to let this rest for a moment. And while it's resting, we have the perfect opportunity to finish our salad. So as I mentioned before, very simple dressing. Not a whole lot to it at all. We're going to take a lime, very fresh, roll it a little bit to start breaking those cells of juice within. Cut it in half. Squeeze one. Squeeze two. Quick dash of tamari. You don't want this to taste like soy. You just want a little hint of salt. An additional little hint of salt. Freshly ground black pepper. And of course, my very favorite, extra virgin olive oil. And we're going to get right in with both hands and very gently start to incorporate this. Now I'm trying to be super gentle because these greens are so tender and soft. I really want to be careful not to damage them. But I also want to make sure that all of our ingredients get well combined. I want to look for the shine of that oil on every single leaf. And there we have it. So we can go right to our serving platter. Making sure, as I mentioned a moment ago, to scoop out some of the delicious peanuts from the bottom. Make sure people can see them. You never know if you're going to have a guest with an allergy, so you don't want them to mistakenly bite into a peanut. The party would go south from there, I'm sure. And then for service, I would arrange the lamb chops so that my guests could choose possibly which one they were interested in. Beautiful sear, beautiful lamb chop. And you're ready to go to the table as such. A nice dinner for a summer or fall evening, light and delicious. But alas, I can't go to the table like this because I have to taste myself. First, the salad. Light, fresh, big pops of herbs, just like we were talking about. When you bite into a piece of basil that's this big instead of this big, you sure know it. The peanuts add a great crunch. The vinaigrette is simple, but delicious with just enough of that Asian flair. Now let's try the lamb. Goodness gracious, let's not try the lamb. Because we need to put our sauce on, don't we? So this is a pretty strong flavored sauce. I'm just going to do the lightest drizzle over the top. If you have extra, you can certainly put it in a little dish on the side to pass, if people want some more. Fantastic. Now I think I'm ready to try the lamb. All right, we've got a nice medium, which is just what I was hoping for. And you can carve this up just like you would a very small porterhouse or T-bone steak. I definitely want to make sure I get that sauce. That's great. It doesn't taste of chocolate specifically, but the chocolate brings out a kind of meatiness that the lamb has. It accentuates it, makes it almost more lamby in a way. Not in a way of the lanolin lamb flavor, but in a fullness of meat flavor, like a good roast. That's great. Definitely a dinner I'd sit down to anytime. Many thanks to Erle and Eliza for sharing with us just some of all that they do down at Farmhouse Chocolates and for sending me home with a unique challenge as I try to make a savory dinner dish out of relatively dessert-style ingredients. Thanks again for watching Vermont Foodie, and we hope you'll join us again.